We are destroying our kids' childhood. I know that is a bold statement.
Traveling the world really has changed our perspective. It has showed us what is wrong with the United States and like what is not working. We have the ability to make the choice for our kids to not have an American childhood. And just seeing the consequences right now of the last generation in the way that that childhood went, it's definitely not how we want to raise our kid. Do you remember what our childhood looked like?
Yeah, I was outside all day long.
I was too, mainly because if I came back in, then my mom would give me something to do because clearly I was available. So all day.
Yeah, I think that we were kind of like the last generation to really grow up without screens. I didn't get the internet until I was basically in middle school, and it was dial up, right? So I couldn't really do much, but I would wake up in the morning and I was outside all day long. Kids are growing up in a completely different world now.
Yeah, it is really hard. We want our children to have the childhood that we had, and I honestly think we are the last generation at this point to have that childhood, the one where you played outside all day and there wasn't like all of this bullying and stuff going on. And now then the kids go to school and then they come home and they get like on electronics to talk and interact with the kids that they're at school, and some of those kids aren't very nice, and I think that's leading to a lot of the issues that we're currently having with the rising suicide rates of kids and just the overall violence with kids. Like there's not really an escape, like it follows them everywhere. Like they need time to just be kids, just go outside and play. I think we're losing imagination.
So I read this book, The Anxious Generation, which I think everybody should read. And it just really goes into how we've lost play in childhood and how important it is, and how smartphones and social media have really ruined childhood and just dramatically affected it, and how the rates of anxiety and depression and mental health issues among like adolescents has risen substantially since the introduction of the smartphone. A lot of the problem is that even if we choose not to give our kids a smartphone, or we keep them off of social media, we keep them off of their iPad, like all the other kids that they're around are still having those things. So, like, who are they going to play with? They're going to play with other kids who are affected by social media and by electronics and are not outside playing. Like, playgrounds are empty, and kids don't know how to play anymore. And it is really just culturally a huge problem in in our society, and I think is leading to a lot of issues. And the statistics are there: the mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all of that stuff.
Obesity,
Yeah.
because kids need to be playing. Like in order for children's brains to grow and for them to be healthy, they need to be physically doing stuff. They need to be building motor skills by doing dangerous stuff safely. Like it's
Yeah.
really good for kids. You know, the crazy stuff we did as kids where, we jumped out of swings while they were moving and we climbed across the monkey bars on the top, which is not the way you're supposed to do it. Like all of this stuff that we did actually helped our brain grow and our motor skills improve. And overall, part of although it's a food issue in America too, a huge issue with childhood obesity is the fact that our children spend so much time sitting around in front of a screen. And we're not in any way saying that screens are just completely bad. I am pro technology. When I was a kid, me and my brother, we had PlayStation and stuff like that, but we were not allowed to stay inside and just play PlayStation all day. We were outside climbing trees. We would just disappear and not be back until it was dark. When the street lights came on, we came inside and we drank out of the water hose.
So, anyway, like one of the reasons we don't want to raise our kid in the US is just like the culture around the loss of childhood. When we've been in all of the other countries that we've been in, like the things that we've noticed is that kids are still kids. They're still outside playing. They don't have access to all these screens and social media, and they ride their bikes to and from school. They are outside playing after dark, like they're playing balls, they're running around the neighborhood. They know how to like socialize with each other and with other adults, and they'll come up and talk to us. And it's just been like such a it it takes you back to our childhood and what a cool experience that was, and like what's missing in US culture today.
I think America itself has become really complacent in seeing the issue that we're having right now in raising our children and the way that children are growing up in the United States. And it's completely understandable because that's the only thing you see. Like when the only reference you have is the way that American kids are now growing up, well, you're just like, well, that's just going to be the way it is. They're going to have iPads. They are going to play inside. We can't, just let our kids run around outside anymore. And but then when you travel to other countries, you quickly realize that in these other countries, these children are outside playing all the time. And it just reminded us so much of what it was like when we were kids. Kids don't know how to play, you know?
Yeah, they talk to each other online instead of talking to each other in real life.
Which pros to that, I will say that it's really cool that our kids have
Yeah.
friends all over the world. It doesn't matter, and I think that really helps with having empathy for other people and other lifestyles and cultures. But I also think that imagination and playing outside is extremely important.
We have to find a balance. There has to be a balance there, and I do think we will get there eventually, but we are 100% not there right now. The pendulum swings all the way to the extreme where people have just allowed their kids unlimited access to this technology that's new, and we are seeing the ramifications of that. And so we got to take it back to find some balance, use technology as a tool, but not like overdo it. Like play is still so important. And when you talk to like all of these like tech guys, like Mark Zuckerberg doesn't let his kids use social media. Bill Gates doesn't let his kids use social media. Like they know why, and that's another rabbit hole. But we won't go into that. But
Yeah, not in this video. That's a whole video. I think that this would lead us into another huge issue, and one of the biggest reasons that children aren't outside playing anymore is safety.
yeah, safety is a huge issue for us, like a major issue. Gun violence is now the leading cause of death for kids and adolescents, which, we decided to homeschool even my now adult kids like many, many years ago, with that being one reason.
I think that at this point in the United States, sending your kids to school is honestly more dangerous than most other things. Like the highest risk to your kids right now is sending them to school, which it was not like that when we were growing up. We did not have to live through this. And yeah, there was a few school shootings, like two maybe.
Not when I was a kid. After
We had Sandy Hook, didn't we?
I was an adult. My kids were in
Oh,
school during Sandy
I
Hook.
was in school.
Yeah,
When was
Morgan
Sandy
and
Hook?
Scott. Morgan, I think, was in kindergarten. I know I was at work when that happened, and Morgan was at school, and that was very
I'm
traumatic
pretty sure
for
I
me.
was in school during Sandy Hook.
Well, that's just our age
I
difference.
just want you to know. I can't be positive on that, but I'm pretty sure that I was in school. But overall, when we had drills and stuff like that at school, it was for tornadoes or
We might have occasionally get a bomb threat, and we have to go out to
the
the.
kids just did bomb threats because they wanted to leave class.
But
It was
nobody
like
actually thought that it was real.
no, nobody took that seriously. We all knew that somebody called in a bomb threat, so we would get out of class.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say like the issue with gun violence in school is not just if it happens. It's the concept that it could happen. And kids go to school and know that that is a possibility is like unacceptable. That is an unacceptable thing for kids to go to school and not feel 100% totally safe.
Children, especially young children, should always feel safe. It's mentally, developmentally important for them to feel protected and safe. And we, at this point, do not statistically know the damage that is coming from our 4 and 5 year olds carrying bulletproof backpacks and practicing hiding up under a desk and how to treat gunshot wounds. But it's pretty easy to figure out that this is not going to be good developmentally.
Yeah.
I mean, we have grown adults who see on social media someone get killed and it's like that's too much. But we also have children who are seeing other children get killed even if they didn't get shot. The trauma from that situation will forever change their life, and developmentally is going to have an unbelievable impact on the children.
Yeah, and it's just happening way too much. In beyond gun violence, there's other types of violence in school that is with social media and all that is progressively getting worse, like bullying and harassment. And there's just so much that children have to deal with in society that is unacceptable and is progressively getting worse. And I people seem to like not be angry enough about it, not be aware of it, maybe disassociating themselves from the situation, but it's awful. It it's just not something that we want our kids to experience.
Yeah, I think that the amount of violence in America is just people are just becoming complacent because it's just so common now.
Yeah.
And this is a problem for many reasons. And a lot of people have messaged us and they're like, what are you going to do about your kid wanting to have friends? And like, why are you guys not settling down in America? Your kids need to go to school. They need other people to play with and stuff like that. One, our kid is
Not even three. Yeah.
not even three. Okay. At that point, we're not even concerned about that. But I think one of the biggest issues in America right now, and the issue with the kids, is that we have children raising other children instead of parents being there all the time, which this is, I'm not blaming necessarily parents because there's a financial issue in America where people are forced to work and stuff like that. But we're throwing our kids in daycare at 6 weeks old, and then they literally go to school every day, most of the day. And you only have, on average, 18 years with your kid, and that's your time to teach them how to be a functioning human being. And back in, I mean, technically before our time, probably our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation, the parents, the adults in the world as a community, whether it be the parents or the community around the parents, were teaching the children how to have correct social structure, how to handle emotion, like emotionally correct behavior. And now, then, what we have is we have a bunch of children that are thrown together, where we have adults who are just there to meet their needs, who are overwhelmed at best and
Underpaid.
underpaid. And we've got children navigating the world and trying to learn emotional regulation together, which is not a good idea. That's not a good idea. We have children teaching other children how to respond in to different situations. Children need adults, responsible adults in the community. And this is what they say when it takes a community to raise a child. It is about the community stepping together, which we've seen in other countries. They do this. Everyone is kind of responsible for the children, and they all kind of step in and are like, try and play that adult parenting kind of role.
And that's one of the things that we have really noticed in these places that we've traveled, just how much kids are part of the community here and how much they're really respected. Back in the US, like kids are often seen as like a distraction or a disruption, and they're supposed to fit into an adult world and they're supposed to be quiet and be like little adults. And here and everywhere that we've traveled so far, kids are valued as children and treated like children and allowed to act like children. And the adults are really kind, and they give gifts and they smile at kids and they talk to kids. And it's just a really good, like, you get that it takes a village to raise a child. Even with us being like foreigners and not being part of their community, obviously, like, they still are including Falcon in their community, and they know that it takes everyone to raise a child, and they want all children to grow up and feel included. And that has been really emotional, kind of. Like, I don't know. Like, I want Falcon around that as much as possible.
Yeah, we grew up. I don't know about you. I grew up in the country world of children are supposed to be seen and not heard, and that is just it. Children are an inconvenience, and here and Vietnam and Thailand, like when they have a cafe with a playground in it for the kids to play in. When you have a cafe in America, you have a cafe and there's nothing else, and it's for everybody to be quiet and to work. It's not for you to bring your kids in, you know?
And if they do have a playground, it's McDonald's, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
adults
I
don't
mean,
want to be
it's
there.
not they do not create a space, a nice space for adults that also includes a space for children in the scheme of things, you know? And it's they really do try and make the kids grow up part of the community. And part of the benefit to that happening is when you raise kids to be a part of the community, you raise them with responsibility and you raise them with this feeling of belonging, and that results in a the
Like a caring human
a
being.
caring human being. Yes, like kind of like you know how when you live in like a little small community or a small town, um, and there's like a little old lady, you make sure you help that little old lady. Not that I wouldn't help the little old lady anyway, okay? But like you make sure you go and help her because she knows your mama, okay? There was a time instead of, you know, kids who were playing too loud in the street, somebody coming out with a gun, being all Karen and, you know, threatening to shoot children. Nancy down the road knew your mom, and she just called her and was like, "Hey, your kid's out here being a hoodlum and throwing stuff or whatever." And your mom came outside and was like, "You better knock it off." That was it. It was not made to be this big deal.
That was such a dramatic story.
I'm sorry. You don't have to leave that.
No, it's fine. It's funny.
At least I didn't say that the mom came out and beat the kid's ass because that's what really happened.
Wow, not in my family. Oh, my parents would have just been disappointed in me.
Uh, I grew up in the family of if you got in trouble at school, like I remember they still had spankings when I was in school.
I mean, they still legally still have those
And
now in some states.
my mom was not one of those mom that was like, my poor baby can't do anything wrong. No, she was like, if you get spanked at school, you're gonna get spanked again when you get home.
Did you ever get spanked at school?
No, no, I didn't.
Okay.
They kind of took that out by the time I was like in second grade. Like they weren't doing that anymore. And trust
It's
me,
still legal in Tennessee.
there's a lot of parents who were like, no. I would be like, no. Like I
I don't
wouldn't
trust adults enough to, like, I don't know.
to appropriately
Well, I don't
control
spank.
their-
I don't believe in spanking kids anyway. But
that's just not very effective. But
anyway, beyond the conversation. So just like another huge reason has to do with health and overall lifestyle. I think it's very clear that the health in the United States is not going well. It's getting worse. Obesity rates are rising, even among children. We spend twice as much on health and wellness than any other country. And we have our life expectancy is like 38 or something like that. Like, it's not very good. So, like, obviously, this is another thing that we could talk about forever, but just of the health culture in the US is not great. And I think there's a variety of reasons.
yeah, from the actual healthcare not being very good.
Or
Now,
affordable.
or affordable. I mean, healthcare in the United States, I mean, it's supposed to be one of the leading industries for healthcare. And if you break a bone or you get
Have an
injured,
acute problem.
yeah, they can fix you up. But if you have a chronic issue, some sort of genetic issue, good luck.
Preventative care
Prevent-
is non-existent, basically.
Basically, the the food in the U.S. is,
Trash.
yeah. I was gonna try and come up with something
No,
better
it's
than
just
trash,
trash.
but it is absolutely trash. I was gonna go a different direction. I was trying to be positive, guys, but it is trash. And then the food that we feed our children in schools, for example, we all know school lunches are absolute trash. And a lot of the issue with behavior and like hyperactivity issues and stuff like that has come from America's terrible food system because they literally shove sugar and food dyes down our kids' throat all day, every day.
Yeah, and you know, can you keep your kids away from that? In some regards, you can, because we've been very conscious about what we feed our kids, like always. And but it's still really hard just because the cost of food, like we couldn't really afford to feed organic food, even though like we know that that's better. And then organic food, is it really better? Like they still spray stuff. Anyway, it's just a complicated system. And even if you're trying really, really hard, and even if you have the money to be able to afford to buy like the best food out there, it's still really hard to feed actual, real, good quality food. And when we go to other countries and when we have, you know, been to several other countries at this point, it's so easy. It's just natural and it isn't complicated and it's the default instead of like trying to always fight the system.
It's weird to eat processed food in most of these other countries. In the US, the problem is like even if we're trying to feed our kids healthy food, we've got and we're spending extra money to try and make sure our kids are healthy and eating good nutritious food. And then we've got wealthy companies just shoving advertisements down their face and everything from like video games to TV to school billboards, like constantly. The only thing you see is like cereal and donuts and all of this absolute garbage
You can't even
everywhere.
drive down the road without like fast food, fast food, fast food. You know, like it's everywhere.
And then they put toys in the fast food, and then you got your kid over here like, I want that Happy Meal toy, and you're like,
It is a constant uphill battle and it's really nice to be somewhere and it just be so easy and simple and natural to eat just food, like real, actual food. And I think also a lot of adults don't know what real food is. Like it takes a lot of, like we spend a lot of time like learning and researching and like actually trying to understand the food system and stuff. And that's just something that we're interested in. And there's a lot of
nutritional,
misinformation, like
yeah.
contradictory stuff, and like people don't know what they're supposed to eat, and so like that makes it a lot harder. It's just hard in general. So
Nothing is easy. There's a million different things of calories in, calories out, and high fat and low fat, and what's healthy food and what's not healthy food, and
everyone
it
disagrees.
yeah, they all disagree, and I also think that everybody is completely different, and so we could do a whole video on nutrition and the amount of nutritional information that we have learned and had to learn because food is medicine. So, I mean, we have spent a lot of time
Yeah.
trying to fix health issues and stuff with food. And the information was complicated, it's vast and very contradictory.
And we're still always learning new stuff.
We are constantly learning. I know that we have talked a lot about how we are currently traveling around and we are looking for the best place possibly for us to live in the future. And a lot of that is that a lot of those conversations have been based on living in a place that is requires less money to live there. But what most people don't realize is one of the main reasons why that we are doing that is because we want to be there for our kid. We don't want to have to work all the time because we want to be there to spend time with our kid. And I think that this is a huge issue in America that's kind of pushing all these other issues is we have the cost of living in America is so much that we have parents where two people in a household are having to work and they can't afford to miss work. We have no maternity leave. We've got parents like moms having to put their babies in daycare at 6 weeks and go back to work. And this just starts this whole cycle. And I think that the push for parents to just work is also like
Ruining the whole family system.
it is.
And families can't be families anymore because the parents have to work and the kids are going off to daycare really young. And, that's what my degree is in. That's what I did before I came home and to raise my kids and homeschool them is I have my degree in developmental psychology. I worked as a teacher and I have also worked in daycare and been an infant teacher in a daycare and I've been a preschool teacher. And I can say that from my experience, the ideal situation from birth to three, kids should be at home with their caregiver. That was our goal with Falcon. And Falcon has never been away from us at all. One of us. Like they've had us there.
Not an overnight,
No.
not a daycare, nothing.
And it's so hard for parents now because like it's not an option for a lot of people. I was a single working mom when my older kids who are adults now, when they were little, they had to go to daycare. They had to go to school because I had to work. And so it really puts families and kids, let's focus on kids. It puts kids in a less than ideal situation. And can they end up being okay? Yeah, that's fine. But like we're starting them pushing them into independence, which is a huge issue within American culture, is independence. And that is an issue. And that is creating a lot of the, again, anxiety, depression, like all of that. What is the long-term ramifications of like distancing yourself from your kids at like such an early age? And then once they get to school age, they like start going to kindergarten all day. Like my kids went to kindergarten from 7:45 in the morning until 3:05 is when they got out. That was too long of a day for them. And they're sitting in a desk a lot. They're learning. We're getting rid of, back to that play-based childhood that's gone. Like we are destroying our kids' childhood. And I mean that. I'm not just saying that. Like I know that is a bold statement, but I really think we are destroying our kids' childhoods.
It's definitely not. I don't think it's having a positive effect on independence. I mean, as we've seen recently, children who are at home with their parents at 25 is actually higher than it ever was before.
Yeah.
We're pushing our kids to be independent as kids, and it's resulting in a lack of independence as adults.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. Like, there is a scaffolding that needs to happen. And I think that we're so off base with like little bitty kids need to be with their caregivers all the time. And that needs to be scaffolded more as they get older to the point when they're adolescents. Like a lot of the times we over hover or helicopter over teenagers and we don't allow them to have the independence that they need. And they need freedom. They need more space. And because it's just an unhealthy dynamic that we've raised them in, by the time they become teenagers, they don't get that space and that freedom that they actually want.
Well, they don't know how to use that freedom.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Once you have a kid, when you have a kid and you raise it at home and you have that community, you have those parents there teaching them how to regulate their emotions, how to make good decisions, how to make, realize when other people are trying to influence them in bad decisions. Then when you have a teenager, you can let them have a lot more freedom and trust that you have done a really good job parenting and that other kids haven't parented your kid for you.
Yeah.
And at that point, when some other kid tries to teenager tries to talk them into doing something that's probably not the best idea in the world, they have the cognitive function to be able to figure out that maybe that's not in their best interest. Now, not all parents have a choice in the matter, like, and that's because of the system in the United States. Now, there's some parents that just would like to have a full-time nanny all the time.
I
And
mean, they don't really actually want to be parents.
even within this conversation, there are so many more reasons that we could go into about why that we do not want to raise our kid in the United States. And we will say that traveling the world really has changed our perspective. It has showed us what is wrong with the United States and like what is not working and what is working. And we have the ability to make the choice for our kids to not have an American childhood. And just seeing the consequences right now of the last generation in the way that that childhood went, it's definitely not how we want to raise our kid.
And I know that not everybody can leave the US and not everybody wants to leave the US. And one of the reasons why we are sharing our experiences is because there needs to be change that happens even within the US. Like we hate that we've had to leave and we hate that we don't like all of these things. And the ideal situation is for this stuff to change. Like we want it to change and get better. And that happens at an individual level when a bunch of people decide to like recognize that this is a problem and do something different. And we're at the stage like something needs to be done different. And you have to become aware of the problem. And us leaving and having all these experiences have made us very aware of the problem and how things can be better. It's hopeful. Like it can very easily be better, and it's really more simple to be better, you know, like having kids part of the community is more simple than like separating them, and you know, like not having to be in a situation where you have to go to work, you know, a million hours a day to like pay for everything and then send your kid to daycare and pay for that. It's more simple if you were able to stay home and had the money and didn't have to work so much. Like it's easier. So like we need to get back to a simpler, we're making things way overcomplicated and everything in the US has become overcomplicated. And I just hope that it can be fixed. And you just have to like start figuring out how you can make changes on an individual level.
Yeah, I don't think this was something that we super realized. Obviously, we realized that gun violence was an issue, but I think the overall issue with kids and like where it was going, like we were like most millennials and older adults, and we were sitting there when we're seeing like school shootings and the super rise in violence with kids, and being like, what in the world is happening? We didn't act like that when we were kids. When you truly look at how we were raised versus how the kids today are raised, and then you look at the other country of kids, like when you travel and you look at how they're growing up, you quickly realize like where the problems are. And I think that there are things that even people who live in the United States can do to help negate the current side effects. Don't forget to like and subscribe.